My name is Marijn. I have met most of you. I represent the software department of Human Consultants. I'm a software developer myself, but of course I'm representing my team. And we have been working on the digital delivery ticket and everything surrounding it for a while. Today I will be introducing the concept, or recapping the concept for those of you who are already familiar with it. I will demonstrating the disparate functionalities, and I will share the vision on the future work and indeed how we see this developing within the Reincarnate project. Please feel free to voice your questions immediately. However, at the same time, this is being recorded, so if we're going towards a true discussion, I would like to move that towards the end. Having said that, this is what I want to talk with you about. So it's all about the digital delivery ticket, but I would like to recap a bit and share how we got to this point in the first place, what the intended goal was, and indeed what obligations we're meeting, what opportunities we're hoping to fulfill with it. The digital delivery ticket in itself is based on the concept of generating QR codes, scanning them on site when delivery is accepted, and enriching the BIM model, and then analyzing the results of this enriched BIM model to produce significant and valuable information. This is the essence, which I will dive into in depth. This is also the chronological order of my presentation. And at the end, I'm hopeful to have some discussion. Again, feel free to ask your questions as they occur to you. So the digital delivery ticket stems from the goal of, or the innovation of interfaces to existing databases and planning tools. I took this slide from a previous presentation. The innovation of interfaces to existing databases and planning tools basically says that we aim to connect to disparate information sources, connect to services, connect to information that is available, and the technical term for this is interfacing. From this interfacing intent, we defined 3 use cases: the digital delivery ticket, which we'll be talking about today, the one-to-one reuse of prefab elements, and the functional recycling of flat glass. These are 3 use cases and scenarios that are all being discussed in various groups. Today, we're talking about the digital delivery ticket. The goal of the digital delivery ticket, there are very nice pictures here. Like I said, I took these from another presentation. The digital delivery ticket is intended to solve a problem. Basically, the flow chain as we see it is that we are manufacturing something, and then we are transporting the manufactured product. It arrives, and then we're installing it, and then afterwards we have no idea what actually went in there in the first place. That is basically the workflow as we see it. So a manufacturer knows everything that goes into the product. He knows every detail. A site manager on arrival already produces a digital delivery ticket. Someone accepts this delivery, but at the end, an analyst or anybody in the role of being interested in what elements are actually in there, what materials are there, what reuse potential is there in this building or in its constituent components, cannot answer their question. Thus the unhappy smiley at the end. This is the statement of the problem, and the intended solution is for the manufacturer to share their knowledge in a way so that the analyst can actually make use of it. What we were thinking of is to indeed use a QR code as a means of transporting information, so that through the digital delivery ticket that the site manager of the construction site signs, the BIM model can be enriched with the information that the manufacturer knew, so that the analyst at the end can query the BIM model, can ask the BIM model for the information that they need to draw their conclusion and do their analysis. This is, from a very high overview, the intent or the problem that the digital delivery ticket aims to solve, making use of existing processes and adding technical innovations and enriching the BIM model, which is the central axis of the Reincarnate project. There are many ways to do this, but the important goal here is also to interface with existing systems, like I said. Therefore, we apply this QR code in many different ways, which I will explain in a bit. But this is the essence. So the manufacturer defines what a product is through a QR code. The site manager scans this QR code on arrival or on installation, and through the digital delivery ticket enriches the BIM model, and the analyst at the end can query this BIM model. I will show all of this today. Looking more in depth in the digital delivery ticket, at the top here I have the same workflow. So we're talking about manufacturing, transport, arrival, and installation. A manufacturer creates a QR code. For this, he uses a QR tool that is part of the CPIM, the CPIM. This product identification is stored in a database or in the QR code. More on this later. Upon arrival, the site manager scans the QR code, and a data retriever component pulls together all sorts of information. It pulls information that is embedded directly in the QR code. It consults an external database for any information that is not in the QR code, but that the QR code links to. It can also use information such as what is the current date and time, who actually is this site manager, and who is taking responsibility for this product. And it offers the opportunity to fill out anything that is still missing. So there are currently 4 data sources being considered, but more could be added in the future if we want to talk about it. From an innovation perspective, the connection to this database is most important because this is an interface. This is where you scan the QR code. It contains a link, just like you would have a link to a website. It consults this website and asks the question, okay, what information do you have for me? And then translates that information to something that it can use. For this, it uses an API. API stands for Application Programmable Interface, and is basically a contract on how you communicate. So any external service that has a compatible API, that has a contract on how can I communicate with you and how can I get the relevant information from your system, is capable of being added to this concept of a digital delivery ticket. Finally, when this data retriever component has everything it needs, we basically know everything about the product, or the product as it arrives on site. We just don't know where it goes. So remember, I am a software developer, but I imagine that that cement arrives at the workplace. We know everything about this cement, we just don't know where it goes. So what we want to do is we want to visualize this BIM model that we have, and we want to be able to select, it goes into this element. Because from then on, we can enrich the BIM model. Specifically, we can enrich the selected element in the BIM model with all the information that was pulled together by the data retriever component, which leads us to an up-to-date IFC in the cloud in the CPIM. Are there any questions about this concept as I've now explained it to you? No? That's good, because that means that the premise may actually stand or retain its potential. This is the concept. I will refer to this back later on, but this is in essence what we're doing. To go to return to the process of what this is, we're generating a QR code, we're accepting delivery, we're enriching the BIM model, and we're querying for results. All of these functionalities are in the CPIM and the attached app, and I will show them to you. But I want to ensure that we know what actually happens off-site and what happens on-site. So in the office is where we create QR codes. This is basically the role of the manufacturer. They need to fill out what information they can, or what links to external systems exist, and from that use the QR tool to generate this QR code. This QR code should then obviously be affixed to the product that is being transported, upon which it arrives on site. The site manager scans this QR code, thereby signing for delivery. Their name, the date, and their email address may be attached to the QR code and may actually be embedded in the BIM model afterwards. They should select the relevant BIM element. Again, yay, I know everything about the cement, but where should I pour it? The tool will automatically fill out the date, time, and name wherever it's defined that it should go. The site manager has the opportunity to answer any of the questions. They can be marked as required or not. And finally, the system will enrich the BIM model. With this enriched BIM model, we can return to the left-hand side to the office, because from that point on, we have a model we can query. We can write a new query at any time. An analyst can do lots of things once, but we're also anticipating that you want to query repeatedly or execute a query on various different buildings. So what we want to do is create a reusable query, a reusable question that we want to be able to ask a BIM model, apply it to this BIM model. This produces a list of results, and this list of results may be of use on its own, but what we want to do is to use this list of results to calculate a KPI or multiple KPIs and visualize these KPIs in a dashboard. To be perfectly clear, this dashboard does not exist yet. This is on the list of future work, but everything else, from creating the QR code, through scanning it, enriching the BIM model, creating reusable queries, and producing the list of results and visualizing them in the BIM viewer, all of that I'm going to show to you. Which leads me to the software. Allow me one moment to log on to the CPIM platform, because I'm going to start with the Office functionality. I'm going to run you through a very quick introduction of the CPIM platform, because the intent is not to illustrate all the functionalities in there. I'm only going to focus on the relevance to the DDG. The CPIM platform contains multiple applications and modules that are of use in various tasks and work packages of the project. Today we're going to focus on our passport, which I'm selecting here. Having selected the passport application, it shows up on the top left side. In general, the layout of the R Suite platform and the CPIM is a process navigator on the left-hand side with various processes that I can access, an entity navigator besides that, through which I can select various entities that I want to work with, and a working area on the right-hand side. Right now, I am in the passport application. I have selected the QR process. I have selected one of the QR codes that are in there, and here on the right-hand side is the area where I can define my QR code. Let me zoom in a little bit, because I'm assuming that is useful.
Yeah.
This is the QR tool in the CPIM platform. Again, what I want to do here is I want to define, as a manufacturer, what I know about my product. In an ideal situation, what we would like to do is have a manufacturer define this in their own systems, and then use this QR code to refer back to those systems using the link I mentioned. Unfortunately, the systems, as they're in use by the consortium members of the Reincarnate project, are not, as they are, compatible with this, which is why we have now simulated this using the CPIM platform. What is happening here in the background is that all of the things I define here below are stored in the database of the platform, and this QR code contains only a link. So what eventually will happen is that the app will scan this link and then pull information from the R Suite platform as if it were an external service. So what we're simulating here is the interface to an external service. This could be any kind of service, but right now we're using it to simulate it through R Suite. What we could also do is embed all this information in the QR code itself, and then you don't even need to download anything from an external service, because all the information would be in a QR code. These are two things we support. For now, I just want to demonstrate that it works and how it works, and we can get back to this concept later. What I'm basically doing is I'm giving my QR code name, so let's add one. I'm calling this my QR code. It automatically contains a link here. I'm saving it. Oh, no, I'm editing it. And I'm going to add various properties that I want to add to it. So let's say that I have a product name, and I'm calling it the best product ever. And I'm adding something else. And that is Clearly, I need new typing skills. Lecture. Either way, this is basically inputting what information you want to share about your product. What is important here is that the Reincarnate project defines an ontology. It defines an ontology that reflects how information is, can, and should be stored in a model, in IFC. In that sense, it is ideal if these property names on the left-hand side correspond to the ontology, because that is what the tool eventually will use to determine where this information should be stored in the bin model. So what you would do in technical terms is here follow the ontology strictly and say property set, point, property name, and then assign whatever value you want to use. I have an example of this in this QR code I had previously. These are the properties as they are defined, or some of the properties as they are defined through the ontology. So I have a project name, I have a GWP net of 118 for the material. I have a time of, let me get back to that. I have a digital delivery ticket number. I have various properties here, and these things in the column on the left-hand side will determine where they are eventually stored in the BIM model. For now, I'm assuming that these figures on the right-hand side have some relevance. This is the part where I confess that I'm a software developer. I know nothing about cement or anything about this product. So if it says 56 here, I'm going to assume that's correct. This is up to the manufacturer to determine. There are, however, some interesting things in here. One here is that it says date_time. This is a placeholder. When you scan the QR code, the app will recognize that this says date time, and it will replace this with the current date and time. The same holds for user email and username here at the bottom. This is how you can define that at the time of signing for delivery, this email of the user or the date and time should be inserted into the BIM model. Likewise, you also see that some of the property values are missing. This is an indication for the app that it should prompt the user to fill this information out. So this is where a free entry field will appear in the BIM model or in the QR scanning tool to fill this out. So this could be end of unloading, or it could be anything about the quality or the weather conditions, or anything you would like your site manager to share at the moment of installation. And that's basically it. You save this, this produces a QR code. This QR code contains a link, which is this one, and when you scan it, the app will contact the API and pull all this information from the QR code and from the external databases through the interfaces through the API. Any questions so far?
Yes, I have one, because you mentioned that those parameters, they are also used to kind of direct information so it ends up in a correct place in the BIM model. Does this mean that some of these parameters can be both element parameters and then others can be material parameters, or you have not kind of worked on that yet? Because I believe in the ontology also, and for us in different softwares, it was a challenge to kind of at times create material parameters where elements are much easier to be parameterized.
I think I will skip to the end and show you where everything goes, because I think that's the clearest way to visualize this. What is important here is that when you scan this QR code, you select an element, which is basically your indication. Everything here I'm going to store or attach to this element. That means that it is not currently possible to define a QR code that should distribute its content over multiple elements. So for example, if you have a complex window element that contains sub-elements such as glass panels, etc., then it cannot currently distribute all this information over the various components. This could be something that we add in the future, but for now, if you just select the entire window frame with all its constituent components, it will add the properties to that. Does that already answer your question?
Partially, it will be great to see. Yeah, so from my perspective, we can go to seeing how it looks like in the model, and then perhaps
exactly. Please remember
questions.
your question, and we'll come back to it when I show where everything goes. Benjamin, you have a question?
Yes. So if I understood your last comment correctly, that means that if we have a truck full of concrete, and these concrete 9 cubic meters have to be in 2 different elements, so far that is not possible, or I understood you not correctly?
It is possible, but let me show you how it works, and we'll come back to that. Yeah?
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions, or have I promised much more in the future? No? All right. I have this QR code, and I'm now going to switch to my iPad, which means I need to stop sharing this. And share my screen here. Hello. Yes, I would like to add this voice, please. I would like to share my screen. You are currently looking at the screen of my iPad, which is on my desk, which is why you're seeing my desk. And the iPad itself follows the same general layout as the rest of the CPIM platform does. That means on the left-hand side, you have a blue bar with various processes where currently the QR code process is selected. Besides that, we have an entity navigator that currently lists all the objects in the CPIM platform. And on the right-hand side, we have a working area with a helpful instruction, namely scan a QR code. This working area is entirely filled with the camera view. But I'm currently pretending to be in Warsaw. So I have selected the University of Warsaw because that is where I want to install my fictional cement that I'm scanning the QR code of. So I'm currently pretending to be a site manager. I have just seen a truck full of cement arriving. I have done magic and concluded that this is the right cement. And there is a helpful QR code attached that I would now like to scan. So I'm going to pick up this iPad and then hide all the rest of it and scan here, move it towards my computer, where I have just very quickly scanned this QR code. It has recognized this QR code as one being compatible to the CPIM platform, and it has now followed the link in the QR code to all the information, and it has now downloaded all the property names and the property values that were defined. So it says up top, properties from the scanned QR code. It says here that we're working with the University of Warsaw, and then we see property name. Apparently the property name is building site dev. We're in Warsaw. There is a vehicle identification, which is apparently part of the QR code, but it has also automatically filled out some things. So it has filled out the receiver name, which is mine. It has filled out the receiver email, which it knows because I am logged into this app. And it has filled out the current delivery date. No, it has filled out the time of arrival at the job site, which is today and now. So this is an example of having scanned the QR code and pulling all the information from through its interface from an external system, which in this case is the CPIM itself. Of course, now I have my information about my cement. I'm standing next to this fictional truck, but now I should answer the question, but where does this go? This is the part where I select the next button at the bottom, which leads me to an interactive IFC viewer. Here I have the BIM model as it is configured in the CPIM platform. This is a fully functional BIM viewer, and here I can now select, okay, where does this cement go? There are some minor, I should say, because this is a low tier level, some minor interactive controls at the bottom. So I can hide either elements or spaces, but I'm mostly interested in spaces. And I can also select which floor I want to look at. So let me go to those all floors and say that we're installing this on level 2. So now it filters the entire BIM and only shows me things on level 2. And let's say that we're adding this to this element over here. I can simply select an element here and indicate that is the one that I want. This is where I want to come back to Benjamin's question, because he asked, I have an entire truck of cement, can I not select multiple elements? At this point in time, no, but that is an obvious feature to add here to this system. This is currently a proof of concept to see if it's even useful as a concept, but if this works for one element, then obviously we can also do this for multiple elements. I should say that the back-end components are already capable of this. It's just the front-end selector where you can highlight what element you want to add it to. That does not currently have this functionality.
And Marijn, of course, it is possible to just confirm this one, and then if they really need to do it for another element, they repeat the process. So that's an alternative, right?
Exactly. You can select one element, complete the process, and then scan your QR code again and select a different element. You could do that, but I can imagine that an entire truck of cement could go to many places, and this would quickly become cumbersome. So what I would like to see is you scan your QR code, you check the properties, and then you open your BIM model and you tap multiple elements, highlighting them in green. This is where it goes. It should then provide you with a list to double check that you did not make any mistakes, because this is also where I see some risks in terms of indeed user error. Because if I were to pour concrete in all of these pillars at the same time, or all of these columns at the same time, I might skip one, or I might select an additional element by mistake, and the visualization alone may not be enough. But either way, these are obvious additions if we prove that the concept works in the first place.
And,
does that answer your question, Benjamin?
Yes, and that, excuse me, Marijn, but raises another question. There are elements in a building as big as the one in the example, that, for example, the slab of concrete that will just receive many trucks of cement. Yeah, for example, imagine that there are three or 27 cubic meters. That means three trucks. This is also possible to in the IFC. Information, just to store that kind of information. In this element, we have 3 different products, materials, or whatever.
Right now, we're assuming that there is one place where the information should go. If the information is not already there, we add it. If the information is already there, we give the option to replace it. But there is not currently an option to add things there. Okay. What you could do is define several types of QR codes where you say cement 1, cement 2, cement 3, or delivery date 1, delivery date 2, delivery date 3. But we would need to think about how this indeed would work in practice.
And it also depends how you have modeled your...
Exactly, that's the next question, because exactly, if you want to consider this tool in head when you are just designing, maybe you want just to quarterize your slabs in 9 cubic meters, that would be a possibility. But it's just that kind of functionalities that are practice, let's say, one in some and some in one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right. To clarify what I was saying in response to Witold's questions as well, right now I can select singular elements, but I can imagine these are relatively simple elements, but I can imagine that some of these are complex or have constituent components. All the information will be added to this particular slab and not anything that it contains. So if there were a multi-layered element, it only adds things to where I selected. But again, I will come back to this upon the end. I have decided we're going to add this here. I've selected it here, and now I can tap the confirm button on the bottom right corner. And it will check, is any of this information in there already? No, it isn't. Then I can basically start inserting this. However, there are some open questions that I could still answer. So here on the right-hand side, I have a an entry field, which I can fill out. So start of unloading is now. I don't know, I add something, end of unloading is later. And consistency target value, I have no idea what this means, so I'm going to say that it is 42. I can go through this list, I can complete it, and I can finally click OK to finally embed everything in the model. Let me do that, and then it says upload succeeded, and it has enriched the BIM model. This is, in essence, what you do as a site manager. It should, on the one hand side, be extremely simple. It should be extremely quick because you don't want to make this extremely cumbersome, but at the same time, it should offer both the option to confirm what you're doing, so provide oversight, and have enough flexibility to apply it in different situations. But in essence, this is a simple job that combines signing for delivery, which a site manager would do anyway, and also safeguarding all the information you have at this point in time so that you can make use of it later. Which leads me to, okay, I tapped OK. That means it knows that I'm done with this QR code, and it goes back to the beginning where I can scan a new QR code if I want to. So now I'm back at the camera view, and it's currently showing my keyboard, which is not important. This is the part where I stop sharing my screen. Ooh. Where's the option to stop sharing my screen, please? It's not there. Fine, I will just share my screen here. Much better.
I think Vital had some questions or clarification. Vital?
Yeah, just a quick thing, because we had a nice graphic discussing the scenarios for parameterization, because I think all of them were mentioned, but of course, so maybe a bit more build up on this comment is with concrete especially, it will almost never be that you'll get one delivery per element. So it's important to have, of course, this case, but as well the one delivery per parameterizing multiple BIM elements, so as in scenario 2, because there will be smaller elements. It also depends on the LOD of the model itself, as it was shown with the slab, the case with multiple deliveries, and for really like a support for a site engineer, it could happen that he didn't have time to do the parameterization immediately. Of course, over here, the functionality of adding the date is important, so it would be ideal to scan the QR immediately. But when to kind of manage the documents easily, it could be also multiple deliveries to multiple elements. And also to comment on the fact that you could divide the bigger elements. This could be totally done, and we have discussed this. It is rarely done because it's simply prolongs the modeling process, but you could divide slabs into a kind of the work areas in which they will be concreted, especially if you want to perhaps add scheduling data and so on. It could be possible, but in most BIM models you won't have this division, so it would be like additional requirement for the modeler. So yeah, I think it's simpler to actually try to solve it, the issue with adding a few orders to one element. What I was just another comment was this is specific for concrete, but for elements that we often discuss in Reincarnate. So for instance, whole windows, it would perhaps be easier to also manage this. Yep.
And it's good to also, again, remember that the TRL level that we are promising in this project is 6 and 7, and we are research and innovation projects. So what Marianne also explained is that we have now focused on scenario 1. We have the prototype for it. It is possible to also go to scenario 2, but if we see the need for it, but for the purpose of demonstrating the prototype that it works and it can bring some added value for the, for example, construction company, for now we stick to scenario 1.
Yeah, totally agree with you. We're in research, so what we already have right now looks great and promising. Yep.
All right. I am going to share the screen of my computer, again, because after having taken the fictional role of a manufacturer, and then after taking the fictional role of a building site manager on site, I am now in my fictional role of analyst, and I'm back at the office where I'm comfortable behind my desk. I am still in RE Passport, but right now I'm going to switch to the stock objects process. Some of you may be familiar with this. But having selected the stock objects process, the entity navigator is currently filled with all the objects in the CPIM, and the working area shows currently that the University of Warsaw was apparently constructed in 1816 and other relevant information. What I want to do, however, is look at the BIM model, which is in here, and do parts of my analysis. So I'm selecting the BIM tab. I'm in the University of Warsaw, as this indicates up top. It has just downloaded the most recent version of the BIM model, which is important because it was just enriched. And here I have my interactive BIM viewer with University of Warsaw, which I'm zooming much too far in. Stop that. Yes. This BIM viewer, some of you may have experimented with already, but it allows me to select an element. I have a model navigator here up top. All the elements are listed in their tree structure. Having selected it in the viewer, it also selects it on the left-hand side, and below that I have a property navigator. This property navigator shows me obviously, the arguments and properties attached to this element I have selected. And of interest here are, for example, the project name, which is building site dev, and the address, which is in Warsaw, and the vehicle identification number, which could only be entered here through this QR code process. So this is, I will promise, something that I prepared previously, actually something that Sama prepared previously, but this was an example of Sama testing the digital delivery ticket, herself taking responsibility for arrival of the fictional cement truck and saying that this cement was to be poured in this exterior wall. It has here embedded the name that it pulled through the link from the QR code. It has embedded the name and email address, which it pulled together from the account information because Sama was logged in. It has embedded the date and time of arrival at the job site from its clock in the iPad, and it has embedded additional information that Sama freely entered, such as, I don't know which of these she freely entered and which of these came from the QR code, to be honest. But what you see here is that the properties are distributed over various property sets. They're categorized in these maturity parameters for properties, for example, as was defined in the QR code, and the naming convention was followed. This allows you to adhere to the reincarnate ontology, which makes this hypothetically compatible with other systems. However, it does not force you to. The system is capable of deviating. If you remember, when I defined my QR code, I freely filled out these property names. I personally adhered to the ontology, but I was not forced to. So this is a fully flexible system that allows you to also deviate from the ontology if the ontology does not yet have a placeholder or a name or a definition for the information you want to convey. You can add it freely. This is both an opportunity and a risk, because it makes it very easy to deviate from the ontology, which we don't want. But at the same time, it also doesn't introduce constraints that we will run into during the testing of this prototype. So there is flexibility in here that has both value and risks involved. However, just being able to view these properties as they are in there is proof that it works, but is not directly useful, because I'm not so much interested in this particular element, but I'm interested in the implications as a whole. But first, I see a question.
Yeah, sorry for interrupting you.
No.
These properties are very important for the model that we have developed. So it's an external model which is not integrated to the CPIM. How is the possibility that we should integrate an external system to this system so that we just directly pass these data to the predict model and have some assessment?
Basically, you're asking that, if I understand you correctly, you don't want to fill out these figures manually into the CPIM. You have a system where they're in already? No?
No. So this information exists in the CPIM, but we want to use some predictive model on the data of this information that exists here. So we have a system that we use some data and it do some predictions. But now we want to integrate it with the CPIM. The problem is that it's an external system, and how we should get the data from the CPIM through to our model.
Yeah, I see two ways, but Sama first wants to say something.
Yeah, no. If I understand correctly, you're referring most probably to SLAM, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm just thinking that Moran will show later, but we have a query system, and you get the result, and you can export that as a Excel file. So there you should have the data. So for all these projects, there is always discussion about integration, what it means by integration. But if that's the data that you require, you can always do a query. You can save the Excel file in the CPIM and use the result for your assessment. We can also discuss other types of integration, but I think that's more like a technical discussion. But I just wanted to first confirm whether you were referring to SLAM or not. But
yeah, exactly.
Query is one solution.
So with functionality that currently exists, I can see four possibilities. First of all, you could use the graphical interface to download the IFC file and query that yourself. Obviously, then you are yourself responsible for finding the information in the IFC file. In a moment, I'm going to show the query engine that is in here that produces a list of results, which indeed is exportable to both CSV and Excel. So if you can create something that is compatible with that format, you could import your information from there. In terms of machine-to-machine connection, we have components, though I confess I'm not sure if they're publicly available, but if not, they can be made available, that have an API. So again, something that a computer can talk to. There is a component that would allow you to automatically download the enriched IFC file. But again, then you are responsible for finding and retrieving the information from the IFC file itself. Finally, I just showed that the app was capable of querying the IFC file for, are these properties in there already and are these values there? So there is also an API that can query the IFC file for specific properties, and possibly this can also be exposed to you as well.
Okay.
I think we should discuss this bilaterally at a later stage, but I see many possibilities.
Okay, perfect. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is our very concern, that's how we should integrate it, or how we should make the way that these two apps should be communicate to each other.
Yeah.
And Zia, do you have the B model of your case somewhere stored in the CPIM?
Not yet, actually.
Okay, so I think it is also good that, because you have already the attributes in the model, right? That's what you said.
Yeah, we have these attributes, but the important thing is that how we can transfer these attributes to the SLAM.
Yeah, so if I have shared some instruction on how to make a new folder for a pilot. If it is not among the existing pilots, then please follow that instruction to create one. And I suggest that you upload your model with the parameters, and then we plan another session bilateral to see how we can connect the two.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
All right. I was talking about this ISC file that is now enriched through various uses of the Orion site app and its QR code scanner. I selected this element and I showed that the properties are present here. But again, we're interested in analysis, and analysis is more than just selecting something and then looking if something is present there. For this purpose, we have added a query engine. I'm going to select the icon up top here, and this shows me collapsing some stuff on the left-hand side so that I have more working area. But this shows me the query engine. This is, I will fully confess, a complex component. It is by nature a complex component because what the purpose of the query engine is to define a query that gives me the information that I want. But this query obviously can have many parameters and conditions and other things. I could be interested in slabs made of cement poured no later than yesterday in a building for which the construction date is no later than last year, with the condition that the weather was good at that time. I don't know. I can define any kind of complex query that I may be interested in, but that by definition means that I need a very flexible way to define what I want. This is a complex thing and something only for experts. However, once an expert has defined this very complex query, we should also, we have made it possible that other people who are not experts or don't have the time to devote to defining this query can use it anyway. Because what I can do up top here is I can select, I want to use the flat path query. I want to use the quantity takeoff query. I want to use a test query, or in this case, I want to use a DDT query. This DDT query is defined as gross GWP lesser than 140 and GWP net larger than 110. I have no idea what this means, except for the fact that the query engine can go through the model and look for any element that corresponds to this. I could edit this query, I could add multiple conditions, I can add things for add conditions for sub-elements or parent elements or relations or descendants or ancestors. I can look for the existence of properties, or I can look at their values. There's lots of options here, and I don't really want to devote too much time to defining the query itself and more to the application. Because this query exists, and I can simply click the search button and then execute this DDT query on the model, and suddenly I see some elements highlighted in yellow. So assuming that somebody competent and knowledgeable defined this query correctly, anybody can select the DDT query and then basically click the search button and find all the elements that match. And I cannot just apply this query to this model. I can define it. I can apply it to all the models in the Reincarnate system. So this is a flexible, reusable query in all kinds of ways. The search results pane at the bottom defines, okay, fine, I have found these elements. I have, for technical reasons, I have the GUID here so that I can refer to them using a unique identifier. There's a very basic quantity takeoff here with length, width, depth, and some area and volume calculations. But this is basically a list of results of matching elements. There's an export button here, so I can export this to either CSV or to Excel. And through this, in this way, import the information in another system or do analyses in Excel or use the information in whatever fashion I want. This is a prototype, but an example of finding the appropriate information all the way from how the manufacturer defined this in their QR code. Are there any questions about this?
I have one question, which is a bit more on the coordination part. Are all of those modules, will they be available to us for testing, or will we interact it personally with the QR codes and the parameterization itself?
I'm not sure I understand.
I'm not sure if I understand your question, but everything I'm showing to you now, you can use yourself.
Okay, yeah, that was exactly my question. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you have, or you can get the opportunity to add, edit, and delete queries yourself Right now, we're limiting some editing to owners of the query because, again, we don't want an expert to spend hours on defining the appropriate query and then a layperson coming along saying, I wonder what this button does. But at the same time, everything I'm showing to you now, you will be able to do yourself. So that includes generating QR codes, scanning and accepting deliveries using the app, and executing these analyses.
And in the environment that you have, you also have this BIM model. Basically, in principle, you can go through this video and replicate everything by yourself again.
Yes. To make this perfectly clear, I am using the live software. I am using the live CPIM in its current version, so everything I'm showing you is live.
Yeah, so I guess this will be also possible at the end of the meeting, but I'm not 100% sure I logged in on the tablet where to find which functionality, though the interface is quite simple and clear. It doesn't look exactly like what you showed, so perhaps I've done something wrong, or but I downloaded the app today, so hopefully it's the newest version.
That is the correct version. I can walk you through that in a minute.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, cool. First, there's another question.
Yes. Good morning. Thank you. Nice presentation. The question is regarding the installation of on-site application. Is it possible to install on Android device, or only is available for Apple?
Right now, it's only available for iPad. I will come back to this in a minute, but right now it's only available for iPad. And
are you expecting to provide a version for Android soon, or which is your expectation?
It's a possibility, but not something I want to promise right now.
No, I think again for the purpose of the project and the use in the pilots, we believe that the prototype that we have is usable. Of course, it has some limitations, but we would like to use the time that we have for development for the other innovations rather than creating the Android version of the same thing. So that's not our priority. So we suggest, if you would like to use it in your pilot, we suggest that you look for an iPad if possible.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome.
All right.
Or maybe you can win the innovation pitch, and this time we can have iPad for it as a gift.
Ooh, can I participate? All right, let me conclude my presentation before we move on to the discussion component. We left off in my presentation with my instruction to myself to go to the software. We did that. I talked about creating this QR code. I showed this in the software, defining properties, and indeed linking this in the office. I scanned this QR code in the app using the QR code process. I selected an element in the BIM model, which I have screenshots here prepared. What I did not have the opportunity to show is that you could do this repeatedly. So theoretically, you could correct mistakes or replace information that is already in the BIM model. What the app does when you scan the QR code is it says, apparently we're working with these properties. Let's see if they're already there. If they're there, it shows the current information side by side with the new information, as you see here in the two columns on the right-hand side. The right-hand side is the new information, and the left-hand side is either colored gray or red. Gray indicates that the information is unchanged. So I have scanned a QR code that contains the same information that is already in the model. The red indicates that the information is changing. This is obvious for dates. If somebody scanned a QR code previously and they're scanning a new QR code now, it's obvious for names and email addresses if it's a different person, but it could also be other information. And it's also useful for this freely enterable information. This is an example of a property that contains, that a user wants to fill out themselves. Obviously, they have not filled anything out yet, and previously someone did. So this indicates that there are changes. This could be a long list of properties. So to ensure that nothing is missed, it will warn you up top of the fact that property values are going to be overwritten and how many there are. Right now, I'm not sure if This is a scenario that we will definitely run into, where we repeatedly import information for the same element. But during testing, this was something very often encountered. And we immediately saw the potential problems in in not recognizing what was being overwritten and accidentally making mistakes or erasing valuable information. So this is all part of the current version. There's more here, but I think we can come back to that if it becomes relevant later. I showed that the upload can succeed, and I showed the essence of a query engine in my demonstration just now. The digital delivery ticket does 4 things, like I said. It can work with data embedded in a QR code, no interfacing to external systems needed. However, it can also interface to external systems at the moment of installation, so that you have the latest version of the information, and you can compile information from various systems, and you don't need to have shadow administrations in multiple systems. It can collate this with automatic additions such as name, date, and email currently, but should you think of something, we can add more, and it allows you to fill out extra information in place. I want to elaborate a bit on this difference between embedded data in the QR code and interface. When I say embedded data, I mean that the manufacturer writes down properties and values and hardcodes them in the QR code. So from that point in time, from the moment you print it, the information is static. It cannot change anymore. This is nice because you have no dependency on external systems, but it basically means that you have a copy of the information in the QR code, and that the information cannot be changed or be updated or anything in this QR code. There's also a slight danger in the sense that the QR code becomes more complex. So if you want to print a really small QR code, it will have lots of tiny dots, which will enlarge the risk of something going wrong with it. At the same time, the interface means that the QR code contains a link to the actual information, and it will, at the time of scanning the QR code, download the information from an or multiple external systems. This means that theoretically the information can change after generating the QR code. So you could first print the QR code and then still fill with the information, or make use of additional processes, or correct errors if they are there. There's lots of possibilities, but the CPIM will need to be able to access this external system. First of all, obviously, it needs to have a compatible interface, but this also means that it does not work if there is no internet connection. These may be limitations to be taken into account, though I should also say that the app needs to be able to download the BIM model anyway, so it needs an internet connection anyway on site. However, it also means that this external system needs to be accessible from the internet at the point in time, so there should not be any outages. There are more advantages and disadvantages, but this shows some of them for this disparity and the disparate functionalities. Right now, we're fully focused on the interface elements. This is the current state of things. I showed you the live software, what it does, how it works, and indeed anything that as it currently is. However, there are some next steps. Some we're taking into account already, some that we can still talk about, and some that we may want to add. But I want to start with telling you that we're going to break things. This is always nice in the demonstration that is being recorded, but I just showed you some very nice software that I'm going to break in a couple of weeks. This is by necessity. We are forced to replace some structural components in the mobile app, which means that the BIM viewer for a while will not be working. The BIM viewer is obviously essential to this entire process, but for a couple of weeks it will be non-functional. Obviously, our first priority is restoring this then. Unfortunately, we cannot delay the release of the new software with its new structural components, which means we will have a breaking change in the app. As I understand it, from a process point of view, this is not an immediate problem, because applying this software in a demonstration case will not happen for a month or two. But at the same time, I do want to be very honest and transparent about it, that this is going to happen. It can be prevented by not updating the app from its current version, or by installing the future version of the app that will have a working BIM viewer again. But I will inform you about this when it happens. There is a breaking change in the app coming. But good news, it will also be fixed again. After having fixed it again, we want to test the current version of this prototype in a demonstration case. So generating QR code, scanning it at the building site, and then doing an analysis on the enriched BIM model. But we also want to add new functionality. I showed you currently where the process ends with this IFC query engine. So I can define a query and I can produce a list of results and color some things yellow in the model. But what we want to do is attach calculators, automatic calculators, to predefined queries. That means that we can select all, for example, all concrete or all carbon relevant elements from a full IFC model. And then we want to add a calculator to that calculates the, for example, the CO2 equivalent for these for this list of results. These KPIs, that result, we want to be able to show in the dashboard. So from that point on, we have an entire workflow from manufacturer, consulting external sources for all the information that we need, through enrichment and digital delivery ticket, where everything comes together in the IFC file in the BIM model, and then automatically analyze this IFC file, calculate, for example, carbon equivalents, but other KPIs may become relevant or may be relevant, and currently not up to date on all of that, but then visualize that in an easily accessible dashboard that many people can draw valuable information from. This is future work that is scheduled and that we will add to the platform anyway. There are more options, but this is, I think, the part where I would like to move towards the discussion. Any thoughts anybody wants to share about any and everything I have just shown to you?
It's a great thing. Thank you, Maureen. I like a lot.
You're welcome, and it's always good to hear. Thank you.
Maybe, Vitold, it would be good if you share with us the plans that you might have for the real test, and maybe a brief planning. When do you expect to have these tests on the site? And if you know already about the use cases, it's going to be also about concrete. If you know the building, how big it would be. So it would be nice to know what we are expecting in the coming future.
So first and foremost, we would like to test what we have seen, but you know that, and I can imagine that the physical demonstration is something more interesting. We cannot do this at the Faculty of Psychology. That's the building that you showed. It's a building for Faculty of Psychology for University of Warsaw that we are building, because the construction site is being finalized at the moment, so it's long after the concreting work. We have many other construction sites that are ongoing right now, and we almost always have some building that is under concreting work. So although I cannot promise anything specific right now, because there's just too many changing factors for the construction. I can't say what construction will start when exactly, because it's all just dependent on too many things. But I think we'll try to find a building of a similar scale, and I think we should stick to the concreting use case. But I think the details on the exact pilot and when to carry out the demonstrations we would have to start discussing after we do like preliminary tests by ourselves in a, so to say, laboratory settings right now in our headquarters. Yeah.
Maybe it would be good, just as a suggestion also, I think for Ben, he also needs to know the upcoming action. So maybe it's good to agree on some preliminary actions, being that you do the test, going through this video and use the environments. If you encounter any problem, then if necessary, we can have follow-up sessions, or you can send your questions to the help desk. I would say that, especially if we want to show the impact, we need to test this on a real pilot. Otherwise, a digital or virtual pilot will not prove that this has been useful, because there is no real contractor, there's no real project. We cannot measure whether it saves time or not. So I think everything considered, everyone is looking forward to test this. And I guess if also considering the timeline, if by the next GA you know about this, then I think we can have some concrete discussions there also face-to-face regarding the planning. Maybe if there is another training session is required, we don't expect that you need us to be there. We expect that you should be able to use the tool yourself. But I would say till then, let us come to a concrete case. It can always be a new pilot. I don't think it would be a problem. If you have more, it's better. But then at least also from our side, we know, for example, then that's a deadline where things should be, addressed if there is a bug or something. But let's aim for a test being completed during summertime, and then maybe have another session bilateral in September, and then have the final planning in during the GA in October. That's my suggestion.
Sure. Yeah, we'll keep this in mind, and during the as I said, laboratory testing, we'll keep in touch and coordinate with Piotr to try to look for good pilot where this could be applied.
Yeah. Okay. Great. And other thing, Pedro is here as well. I don't know if this is relevant for their pilot or not, but then now you know how this innovation works in detail. So let's see if we can find another use case for it or not. But we don't have to also test this in different pilots. If we have only one, that would be already enough.
Pedro is already here.
Yes, it's interesting what the suggestion. We can analyze internally and try to offer one pilot. Of course, yes. The issue here is the previous discussion was interesting, introduced by Witold regarding the scenarios 1, 2, 3, 4. I remember one linked with multiple concrete delivery tickets, parameterizing one BIM element. That scenario number 3 is very interesting. Is typical in demo sites. So the other 2 and 4, it's not so important at this stage. So the question is, are you far or close to get some results in this scenario 3? Do you have in mind this approach?
Let me share again.
So scenario 3 is about having multiple deliveries that all go into a single element.
Yes. In other case, you are updating the information. You have explained that this is possible, but you are removing the previous data. No. So the idea is just to keep adding information to one single BIM element. That could be concrete could be added more than one time. So it's not only one day you finish the work. You are adding concrete with different properties along the time. So this is very interesting. Yeah.
Yes. Right now, I imagine that some of the property values are shared. I'm assuming that these trucks don't differ a lot. You're not mixing things while pouring, I'm assuming. So some of these properties are shared. However, the interest here is in the difference. Different vehicle numbers, different maybe different people signing for delivery. I don't know. Are there technical aspects that differ?
Different companies. If you specify, for example, the graves or the type of graves, if different companies are involved, they can also be different companies. Or if you set up, for example, a minimum amount of megapascals, they can choose one, they can use a 30 and the other ones can use a 32. I don't know, I'm inventing that, but it is possible actually.
Yeah, it is possible. Then indeed, my follow-up question is going to be, does the ontology actually already take this possibility into account?
Well, as you know, the ontology is a definition of where the data should be stored. It doesn't consider versioning, actually. At least I haven't seen anything in the IFC ontology to talk about that you can have versioning. But what I'm just thinking out loud now, right? That if it is about the same property or the same property but different value, then could it be that that value is stored according to the time that it was delivered, then they're more like a versioning, so you can say that at this time it was this, at this time it was...
So on a technical aspect, IFC does not allow a repetition of the same property. A property key within a property set should be unique. But I can see many solutions. What you could do is one property and then, a value, comma, a second value.
That's what, yeah.
But there are some dangers in that as well. What you could also do is aggregate these things into a property set called delivery 1 and a property set called delivery 2, and below that you have some kind of structure.
So you cluster them under one.
You would cluster them or list them, but I think this is a discussion we should.
Yeah, it's another use case. Yeah.
What we can always do is create 3 different QR codes for each of these 3 trucks and just ensure that the information goes to different places. Then this works as is. However,
what do you mean different places?
Well, if we say that we have a delivery date 1 and a delivery date 2 and a delivery date 3 as property names, then the system works as is, no changes needed. You define that when defining the QR code.
But that delivery 1 actually contains sub parameters with the, let's say, aggregation level, etc.
Well, we could do that, but in essence, what you're doing is you're making sure that all the property names are unique.
Yeah.
So where now we have, what was it, GWP net something? I should use an example that I understand, which is difficult. Someone please cue me a property name.
It's a global warming potential, if you're
global warming. So GWP net. There are 3 possible values for this, but we cannot repeat the property name. So we could introduce a GWP net 1, GWP net 2, GWP net 3. We could go that route.
I think then that is really like changing the ontology every time, and in one case it might be 3, in one case it might be 5. But what I'm more inclined to is to keep the property the same, because the property name doesn't change. It's the only thing which changes is the value. So somehow manage to store the value. For the same property.
But the problem is that your ontology also defines that GWP net should be a number and not a list of numbers, because that's what you're
I believe because as we know, we're in a research project. I think right now, at least, I cannot think of any parameter that cannot be either overwritten or summed. So, for instance, at the global warming potential, which is in essence the carbon footprint that we are most familiar with, this can be summed, right? Because in the end, we are wondering how much of the carbon footprint we produced. And for instance, with a date, of course, we're gonna miss some information if we overwrite this, but at the end, once somebody will browse the model a year later, they might wonder, how long they were concreting that slab. and they won't get that information, but what they will get is at least when the concreting work was finalized, which will be the last date, which is overwritten. And I think it could be done as a simplification, and we have to remember that the IFC ontology, it's not really adjusted to such dynamic use cases. But for and this could be discussed. We could do lists as well, and but I think for preliminary testing, I would say that every parameter can be either overwritten or summed.
All right. I think indeed we should organize a breakout for this. Right now, you have added valuable information to me, but in essence, there's a question. Okay, I have conflicting information that should be aggregated in some form. It could be that we choose to retain the original. It could be that we list both. It could be that we use some kind of mathematical aggregation, such as summation or subtraction or some kind of mathematical operator, or some other magic thing that I have not imagined yet. But basically, per property, you can have different wishes, and I think we can discuss those in a breakout group if we need to.
Ben, you have a question. Oh, sorry, no.
Marcus first.
Yeah, sorry. You're muted, I guess. We can't hear you. No, we don't hear you.
Yeah, the microphone isn't working.
I think there is maybe something in the setting that you need to change.
Okay, now it's okay.
Yes.
If we are talking about multiple deliveries in one element, then all the parameters of concrete as a material would be rather the same. The only changing thing is the time of casting and time of unloading the truck. So we don't have to store multiple parameters, I think.
And it's not a common practice in Poland that you ask if there's not enough available concrete suppliers to ask for the same concrete for different suppliers?
I mean, it will happen at times, but for very big construction sites, and they will rather work in a different.
We told are the ones that are more suitable to be integrating these kind of examples. For the house of my uncle, they will not be using that, so it will be really big buildings where they will use that. So that's therefore the case, of course.
Yeah, but even this pilot that we have right now on this example, this is a construction site that has a budget above 100 million euros, and it's taken a few years and was very complex. And for a construction at this scale, we'll usually have just one concrete manufacturer, at least at a certain stage. So it's not like you're gonna, and especially, and we're talking right now about one element. Once again, I'm a researcher, but with a civil engineering background, but I haven't worked long enough on the construction sites to say. But I don't believe that they would ever mix two concretes in one element.
From the two suppliers,
like simultaneously. Yeah.
In my limited experience, that's possible, but that's not the case. I mean, probably Sama's comment has more right. Maybe for the purpose of this Reincarnate initiative,
I would limit it for now. Yeah,
exactly. But we have to
looking for issues, I think.
Of course, but we have to consider that in one moment we have to say, "Hey, these are the future directions. Hey, we notice that this is the limit." Hey.
So in the deliverable ban, I think that's something for you also when you're writing.
Exactly.
When the test is done, we can say that these are the limitations and this is the future direction and some recommendation. But definitely we should not start implementing all the possibilities now.
Yeah.
Absolutely agree.
Pedro.
Yes, no, I confirm that the point is not updating the parameters, but the values of the parameters along the time. Yeah, but keeping the previous ones. So maybe, if it's possible, to add some calculations, some medias or something to quality control. That could be very, very interesting. Okay, and the other question is regarding the timetable. So the application is ready to test. To be tested, and the question is how long? I mean, we can start testing now. in order to find the best work demo site. Demo site in Albacete is not working now, but it's going to restart after summer. We can have other alternatives. So in order to know the timetable to test this tool, please, which is your suggestion? Since now till when?
Yeah, basically you can just start playing around now. So according to us, we are more or less done with the development. We have it at the TRL that we think it can be tested. The app might be updated in future, but as Marijn said, that we will provide more information. If that's the case, you can always also, as a quick solution, you can always not to update the app and then use the old functionalities. That's also a possibility, right? So as far as it concerns us, basically you can start testing and you can let us know if you want to test it on your pilot as it is. And we do not want to, as you know, the development phase is almost finished for Reincarnate project for all the innovations, and now we are in the implementation phase last year. You remember what we also emphasized during the GA. So it is not in our plan, especially for digital delivery ticket, to do any further development, only maybe the dashboard, depending on the case that Vitor will introduce to us. And then from now on, we're gonna spend the time of the development for the other innovation, which is going to be tested in Reincarnate pilots.
Okay.
So it's ready to be tested, basically.
Perfect. I keep in touch with you regarding this issue. Okay.
Vitor.
We are out of time, unfortunately, and I have a follow-up meeting.
Oh yeah. I can take a few more questions, but you.
Yeah, but I also need the room.
Oh, you need. Okay. So. Yeah, basically.
Can I just have 30 seconds to finalize?
Okay. 1 second.
The thing about no new functionalities, it might be challenging for the scenarios that we discussed, that the construction site will be less interested if the software will not kind of suit their needs when it comes to choosing the elements and so on, because on construction sites they are not, of course we will try to engage them in the research and so on, but for a real case it will be definitely an issue, the fact that we don't have this third scenario. Just wanted to say it as a disclaimer, because I can already see this raising eyebrows, and it's not that easy to explain to engineers who work on site every day that this is still in development and so on. So of course we will test it on our own, but just saying that this might be an issue.
Let us discuss that further, and let us hope that even for a small part, we don't have to do everything on the side, but a small part we can do it, because basically this scenario was also developed based on the use case that you guys proposed. So we hope that at least it can bring some added value in one of the sites, even though it might not be about the whole building, but just a small part. Sorry, Zia, I think we need to stop the session now, but if you write to me and if needed, I can have bilateral with you, but I would like to thank everyone.
I will write you.
Yeah, I would like to thank everyone, and write to us if you encounter any problem. Thanks a lot.